Hello, my name is Victor Boak. Uh, I run a website called reducethreats.com, and you can go on there and find out everything that's going on with my website. I have about 10 or 12 years where I've been working on personal protection for people, primarily the average citizen out there, not interested in protecting the larger segment of the world. There are plenty of groups of people out there doing that. Virtually no one is training or teaching our citizens how to protect themselves. Homeland Security has some videos out. They're not well known, but they're mostly focused on industries. They're not focused on the average citizen. So my website focuses on that, and there is a book in there called Creating a Bad Guy Free Zone. It's an audio book. You can go in there and listen to the chapters on that program. And while you're there, leave a comment. But it talks about how the average citizen can protect themselves. But today I'm very interested in schools because I'm very upset, to be honest with you. We are not, we are not protecting our kids. Um, I'm sorry, but the law enforcement model we have been using, and that's what it is, it's basically law enforcement driven, has not really worked. I mean, we've had more school shootings this year than we've ever had. We've had more kids killed than we've ever had, and nobody's paying attention about their screaming about what to do about it. I'm going to tell you how you can stop it today, tonight. This is a plan, and we just need to change our thinking and not get wrapped up in all the law enforcement experts driving the program. Not that I have a problem with them. I mean, they are good at what they do, but they are basically a reactionary catch them after the fact scenario. Very few times can they protect. In fact, on one program, I actually heard a ex-law enforcement officer teaches these courses that they do in schools say they can't stop lone shooters, and I absolutely disagree with that. You can stop lone shooters, but you have to change your attitude and your mental approach to doing it. That's why I think I want to talk about a military approach that has worked for military bases around the world. And it's also a similar kind of approach is used for our federal buildings. And we have not had a major intrusion into a military base that I know of where somebody has gotten through and actually attacked several people like they do in schools. Now, we've had some people like in Fort Hood where the guy has been in the military for years and kind of went bonkers, but no one really crashes through or breaks through a military base and ends up. Now, the argument about whether or not we put armed guards and stuff on the school entrances and exits and the heavy protection that we need to have in our schools, well, that's going to impact you. Well, I'm telling you, people, I was in the military. Kids go on military bases every day of their lives, thousands of kids, and they are not adversely affected by that. In fact, they probably feel more secure because of the security that is there that is protecting them. So we need to get over that mentality. That's just not a proven fact in the process. And certainly all these kids that are screaming now probably wouldn't mind having that presence in their school to start with. Cost wise, real simple. What is your kid's worth? Okay. What are your kids worth? So you want to up the millage and enough to hire people and put in the right equipment to protect yourself, protect your schools the way they should be, then pay for it. Pay for it. Don't scream about what are you going to do and take guns. We know we can't keep guns out of people's hands who are going to kill people. Now, we can limit that by reducing guns, and I'm in favor of that, but, or certain kinds of guns anyway, but, you're going to have that occasional guy that can get a hold of a gun. Okay. You just can't, there's too many of them out there. So the solution is to protect the facility and protect it the same way we protect our military bases, our federal buildings, and our embassies around the world. And very few people get through to those unless it's a major terrorist attack like Benghazi. Uh, and even then, it's tough. It's really tough. So, I mean, that was a raging battle for 13 hours there. So, what I want to show you, I kind of want, let me go on to, let me go in here to right here and share this screen. This is a model that I want to play with and sort of talk to you about. Okay, let's bring this on up here. See it a little bit. If somebody wants to join in, if they happen to show up, I've got most everybody going into a waiting room, and I've learned when live video, you don't allow everybody come jumping into your show. So, you know, if you pop in and things are okay, then I might let you in the show. But normally I just do this with a guest format as opposed to trying to invite a bunch of people to view, but I allow them to view. I just don't allow them in to participate unless I pre-screen them. So if you happen to show up, we can talk about you coming in, and that's fine. Otherwise, you'll probably see this on YouTube and Facebook and other things. But here's the difference. The difference is right now we're thinking self-defense. Everything we train in schools that I can see anyway is all about what happens after the person enters the school and starts shooting, okay, or even enters the school. So, you know, you are in a reactionary training environment, a reactionary mode. No one, I can't find anyone asking the question that says, how did the person even get on the school grounds with a gun? Okay, what are we doing to limit how people can get on the school ground with a gun? Now, we like to think we have an open environment and it's not highly restrictive. And, you know, I remember when I was high school, I liked to get out and go down to McDonald's and have lunch too. But, you know, there's some things that are going on right now that are changing how we're living, and we better learn how to adapt to those things. Otherwise, you have a parkland, okay, or you have a Santa Fe. So I'm telling you, you just have to change your mental attitudes. The kids have to do it, the parents have to do it, the school administration has to do it, and the government has to do it. So just recognize it's different. So let me kind of give you an idea of what I'm talking about when I say protection. This is a discussion starter. I'm not saying this is the total solution, but I'm telling you what, this will work better than what we're doing right now. I'll tell you by a long shot. And it's not an arm and a leg in terms of cost. And particularly if the government decides that, hey, if they're not going to minimize gun control, I mean, if they're not going to go for gun control and minimize guns, then put some money in school protection. Okay, it's just that simple. Fund the government, fund the state. So let's look at this. This is your average typical school. Okay, this outside area out here is your school perimeter. This is the school grounds. Here is the school building. Your normal setup is you might have some external cameras, and you may have some internal cameras on the doors, and you may have some down hallways, etc. in here. But for the sake, let's say you have some cameras in there, and you have a resource officer, and you probably have a video monitoring center, if center was spelled correctly, to monitor this. But I'm telling you right now, the people who monitor that don't know what they're doing. They're not trained to look for suspicious behavior. Most of the time, no one is monitoring it, at least that I can see, because I've actually gone in and asked questions about this. Excuse me. And I don't see anybody monitoring. This could be a church too, by the way, and I see the same thing. I don't see anybody monitoring the video system. They might catch them after they kill somebody or a bunch of people, but nobody's going to say, hey, look, somebody's coming in the door with a gun. At least that's not been the case up to this point. So, how could we enhance this a little bit? First of all, if this, I've seen a lot of schools where there are no fences around the perimeter. Anybody can walk onto the school ground right up to the building. Okay. Now, we think about school shootings. I think a little further than that. Basically, a strategy consultant. So I think a little further than that. I'm thinking you can find somebody who could walk up to a school building and place a humongous bomb or drive a truck over the curb into the building, like loaded with about as much as they had for the Oklahoma City bombing, and would take out a school. That could happen real simple because you have no barriers on this outside. You just have open ground. We don't think about it, but it could happen. And because we don't think about it, then we eliminate that as a potential threat. And that's the problem about protection. You've got to be thinking about potential threats. You got to do your threat assessment. What is the worst thing that could happen? And that would be somebody drives a big truck full of explosive into the side of the school building and explodes and kills everybody in the school. Not something we want to think about, but if you don't think about it, it could happen. What protects that? You got a barrier here, a significant fence around this school. Okay, so if you don't have that, that's the first start to improving our facility here. However, if you have that, at least you have that, but we could enhance that a little more. And you say, how can we do that? Well, it's pretty simple. We put some infrared sensors, very inexpensive things that you can put around the perimeter, that if someone breaks the barrier on this perimeter, and by the way, you would want this plus the fence, not without the fence. These infrared barriers could, if tripped, send a signal to this monitoring station that would tell somebody, hey, you need to look at some of these cameras. Now, they should be looking at them anyway, the whole time they're in school, before school opens till the time they close the school, and maybe someone in the evening should be watching the school. Because if we thought ahead again, hey, somebody could break into the school and leave a bomb inside the school or plant weapons inside the school and come back later. So there's just another thought to be thinking about, the, what could go wrong kind of thing. Now, so these infrareds could work real well. They're inexpensive to put in. Facilities use them all the time. Once you trip, it sends a signal. We know exactly where the trip happened, and from a GPS concept, and you can send a resource officer out there to look at that. Now, keep in mind, you have one resource officer. You probably have more than one exit in a school if you have a fire safety program. So that one officer cannot be in all places at all times. It's just that simple. And you can't guarantee that locks work on these things, because we've seen people go in exits with guns. We saw it in Parkland, in fact. So, this tells us someone has broached the perimeter who's not supposed to be there. Now, could you get a false alarm with a kid going out there? Yeah, but this is far enough on the perimeter. No kids ought to be playing out there. No high school students are going to be leaving that way, because you're going to control your egress and ingress through one area of the facility. Okay, so that takes care of that problem. But you have this extra perimeter here that's technologically based, doesn't take a lot of manpower to watch it, and sets an alarm-based system up. You just have to maintenance, make sure it's up and running, and batteries work. Next, we go, hey, how could we enhance this more? Well, we have a tremendous amount of military police who are leaving the military. These people need jobs. They look for jobs. A lot of them go into law enforcement. They would be better suited to a job like this if we made sure the pay structure was equitable to what they were receiving in the military or more. And keep in mind, these people are not trained like police officers. They're trained to protect facilities. These people are trained to play, yeah, they are investigators, there are law enforcement, but you have also a segment of this group that is designed to protect facilities. They're trained to recognize suspicious behavior. They're trained to be disciplined, not to violate the process and just let somebody go through. They, day after day, diligently check IDs of thousands of people that come through. I know I was on a military base. You couldn't get on and off it without the ID check. And when I went to consult on one a few years back, I had to get an ID badge, and that ID badge had to be shown. And I had to have a sticker on the front of my car so they could see it while you were pulling up. So this is what we need here. If we have one entrance and one exit only, and those are control timed exits, and anybody else coming in, well, anybody coming in during those times has the same issue. They have to show an ID, and they have to have, and that can be as much as having a scanner out there that sets off the thing saying yes or no. You know, yes, they're okay. No, they're not. Or if they see something that's suspicious, like a vendor truck or something like that, they can stop, take the person out, search the truck underneath it, inside it, etc., and make sure it's has in it what it's supposed to have. No one walks into this school or any of these perimeters of this school that are not screened, vetted, and shown to be safe to enter the school building. Now, is that restricted to parents? Is it restricted to kids? Yes, absolutely. And that's what you need to keep your kids safe. Okay? Just saying, you can't do it without having some sort of restrictions on everybody. Again, military bases do this all the time, and people adapt to it and they don't struggle with it. You can't go into a federal building without the same kind of a check. You cannot go into an embassy without the same kind of a check. So if it's good enough for all of those folks, it should be good enough for our school kids. Okay, it's just that simple. If we need federal funding for this, get all over your congressmen and get all over all the other people you know in government, and the ones that don't want to support something like this, paying for these soldiers to come out and have a career outside a good professional career of protecting facilities, then you know, I, I'm not for that person being in office. Just that simple. So you have more facility here. You have a person who could double as a video monitor, and then periodically during times of high traffic ingress egress could go to doors or be an extra assistance out here. Okay, you have a resource officer in there who is a roaming officer, someone who can, go around, and this person should be as highly trained at suspicious behavior and activity, but this is someone who can relate to the kids and get to the inside of things. You also have people in this security realm that can also make sure that they check on an ongoing basis any kind of Facebook or any kind of activity that are going on with the students in this particular facility throughout the day. So if you have someone monitoring those kinds of things, then I'm telling you, if you're a student in school, you're going to get monitored. It's just as simple, because we have they have actually stopped people who are shooters. That's how I know it can be done, because there was someone vigilant enough to see what was going on Facebook and report it. Now, so we'll talk about that later, but right now, these things tend to help. You have an infrared system, you have camera system, you have a guard system with trained protection experts who are trained in identifying suspicious behavior, who know what questions to ask and how to ask them. You have video monitoring people who are actually monitoring the videos that are online so you can see what's going on, not leaving that to some sort of administrator as a second job, which they weren't hired to do anyway and aren't trained to do. Okay, but we have one other thing that could be just absolutely phenomenal that's not all that expensive, but would be great to have, and that's a drone. You can actually get a drone operator and a drone and put this drone into the sky over the school during the day, and that drone can keep track of everything that goes on the outside of this school. Now, if you have a drone, do you need this? You could probably get away without it, but this isn't all that expensive. Okay, and it also allows, if somebody penetrates here, it allows the drone to be taken to that spot quickly and can see where that person is and track where they're going into the building. Not only taking pictures, but they can say, hey, they're on the northwest corner of the building over here, and they're coming to that door. Okay, that alerts this person, it alerts the resource officer, it alerts this person here if they happen to be on the gate. Of course, they should stand their ground on the gate. And if the person penetrates any of these areas out here, but they're certainly going to have a hard time walking through the front gate because this person is going to stop them. If they got a long overcoat on, they're going to ask them to open up that overcoat, maybe even take that overcoat off, look at it, go through it, tell them to turn around, look for weapons. Okay. And they're not afraid to do that. They're trained to do that. Okay. The administrative assistants who let somebody in this front door is not trained to do that, folks. And they're just not, and they shouldn't be expected to do it. So this is an elaborate setup, but I'm telling you, these monitors, this drone system is not that expensive. I mean, you know how many people are buying these things from Best Buy, okay? The personnel are the biggest issue, and that issue is something that you need to make a decision about in terms of your overall cost, okay? So this is a system that will protect your children at school. It's a system that's being used in military bases, federal buildings, embassies around our world where we expect to protect our people who are working for us there. It should be worth it to protect our kids. So there you go. That's my take on at least the beginning of looking at protecting schools differently than providing training on lockdowns and stuff like that after somebody's in. I cringe when I see the videos on news of these kids doing that. These professional people could keep that kind of stuff from happening. Okay, now maybe if it does happen, if they get attacked in that scenario, they'll still go through that drill, and that's okay. I'm not opposed to doing that. I'm opposed to that being the only thing. In fact, if you're going to use that, I tell people in personal protection, it's better to defend against, it's better to take the time to identify a threat than to defend against a life-threatening action. So, should you have to be able to defend yourself? Yes, but that is the last resort. It is the last. The first one should be, are you looking at Facebook? Are you watching your kids? Are you watching, if you see a friend that happens to be posting I've seen some things on Twitter and stuff that I've reported to the FBI. It's just not right. Now, people get mad at me if somebody identified that I report them, and they normally wouldn't do that. But if they did, I don't care, to be honest with you, because frankly, if you're stupid enough to put it on there in a way that is threatening and potentially harmful to people, I don't care how mad you are at them for whatever reason. that is not a right posture to take. So these are things we need to have. Now, the last thing I would say to kind of end this little session here, maybe within a half hour, is you need to learn to protect yourself. Go to my website. Go to Reduce Threats, that's plural, reducethreats.com, and listen to that book and start learning how to identify suspicious behavior. Take it seriously. You might save somebody's life. There have been 3 or 4 or 5 incidences that have been aired on TV where somebody had saved somebody's life. Nearly everyone who has been a shooter has had a signal sent out before they did the shooting, and people just kind of went, that's just who they are. Sorry, can't do that anymore. It's not acceptable. You're costing people's lives. So if you do that, first you need to learn how to do that. What really constitutes suspicious behavior and threat, and how do you do that? And the government, Homeland Security needs to be teaching, putting out a course out there on video or whatever, kind of like I'm doing here, showing you this, teaching personal protection. How to identify suspicion, when to take suspicion to the level of threat, and then how to report it, where to report it, and things like that. How to cope with it, how to deal with it, how to deal with it if it's your family member, how to deal with it if it's a friend, how to deal with it if you see it on Facebook without, panicking and creating a havoc situation like we see on all of these things with TV shows and stuff like that. But there are some things out there that are pretty serious. There people are very violent, and they have some very bad thoughts. And when somebody has a bad thought that could harm someone else, you need to report it if you see it. Just so simple. Okay. And so hopefully the United States government will see this video and decide to start training you and teach you how to do that. Hopefully school systems and administrators and other people will see that this is not, trust me, this is not a cut on law enforcement. Their job has never been protection. It has always been to capture people. And the assumption is if they did that and they punished them, they wouldn't do it again. We see that as not something that works. Never has worked, isn't working now. Okay, you have a good evening.